You must be looking for an easy way to make some delicious bread at home, and you've come to the right place. You absolutely love this one, and the total amount of work you're going to invest is around 15 minutes. The rest is just waiting. My audience at home is a bit busy napping, so why don't you, dear viewer, stay a while and keep me company. Grab yourself a large container or a bowl. You need some basic white flour and lukewarm water. Pour the water into the bowl. Then add the flour. Use the best tool in the kitchen to combine them. You don't need to do anything special, just stir them around until they are relatively homogeneous. You might be thinking that this dough is a bit wet, but don't worry, everything is correct. Here is an easy way to clean your fingers when you're done. You can use a soft spatula to gather whatever is stuck to the walls. Now you should sprinkle the yeast over the dough evenly. After that, do the same with the salt, and don't worry, it won't be an issue. Cover the container and let it rest for 15 to 20 minutes. Get a bowl of lukewarm water to dip your fingers in. At this point, the yeast and the salt should have started to melt, and you can start mixing. Dip your working hand into the water and simply grab about a third or a fourth of the dough, then fold it on top. Just like that. Repeat this step 4 or 5 times until you have a bundle with the yeast and salt in the middle. Now you have to channel your inner lobster and get ready to pinch that dough. Don't forget to dip your hand into the water to prevent sticking. When you do about 4 or 5 cuts, so to speak, fold the dough like we did initially. You must repeat this process 2 or 3 times. This will ensure that the ingredients are properly mixed. Leave the dough to rest for several minutes. Once you allow it some time to rest, repeat the same exercise. Pinch the dough into several sections, fold it and do that 2 more times, just like we did previously. Don't forget to dip your fingers into the water to prevent sticking. We'll leave the dough to rest once more for about 10 minutes. What you'll see is that the dough lacks any sort of firmness. We need to help the gluten develop, so we'll stretch and fold it. Grab 1/4 of the dough, stretch it upwards until you feel some resistance and fold it on top. Just like that. Do this 3 or 4 more times, going clockwise or counterclockwise. You'll see that after each fold, the dough gets much stiffer. See how I can now basically pick it up in the air. Once you're done, leave it for about 40 minutes. And now we'll fold it one last time. The whole process between the mixing stage and this last folding stage must be done within roughly the first hour. We have to use the same technique as previously. Just grab 1/4 of the dough, stretch it upwards until you feel some resistance and fold. This is done a total of 4 or 5 times. We are now done. Now we must leave the dough to rise for about 2 hours. The time may vary a bit depending on the temperature of the room. Dust your working surface generously with flour and grab your bowl of water once more. The size of the dough is now between 2 and 2.5 times larger. You can see how much it has risen and how jiggly it is. Mine appears to be slightly overdone since it was a warm day here, but that isn't going to be an issue. To make the next step easier, dust your dough as well. Another helpful trick is to get a soft spatula. dip it in water and use it instead of your fingers. Now you have to gently take the dough out of the bowl and onto the counter. Dip your fingers in the water and try to make a pouch by slightly stretching each corner and folding it over the dough. Now flip it over, grab it from the side and gently drag it so the bottom folds on itself. I want to mention that at this point it's much easier to generously dust everything with flour and stop dipping your hands in water, as the dough won't stick to the surface as much. This here is another attempt where I only used flour and it was much easier. Another trick for later is to use a piece of baking sheet. Dust it with flour and place the dough on it, then get it back into the bowl. At this point, we'll turn on the oven with our Dutch oven inside and leave it to warm up well for about half an hour. Before you put the dough in the oven, you can use a sharp knife to make some cuts for aesthetic purposes. Mine didn't turn out that well, but that doesn't really matter. Grab the baking sheet and gently place it inside the Dutch oven. It's so much easier that way, and it's unlikely that you'll burn yourself if you're careful. The baking time may vary, but it's generally around 45 minutes. You're looking for a darker shade of brown. Once it's out of the oven, let it cool for about 30 minutes and enjoy this absolutely delicious bread any way you like. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you decide to try this recipe, let me know how it went and if you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and if you'd like to help the channel grow, you can simply subscribe.